Sookraj entered, holding the manila envelope tightly in her hand. Randall was sitting behind his oak desk, examining some files. Randall was dressed as usual, in a suit which looked one size too small for his stocky frame. He did not smile to greet her. His face was not shaped for smiling, and the best he ever did was a slight stretch of the lips. In its casual brutality, his visage always reminded Sookraj of the unforgiving god mask of certain Amerindian tribes. He had a wide but tight-lipped mouth, a thick nose, and a hard chin. Only Randall's light brown eyes would have been attractive, except for his habitually sharp gaze. Sookraj continued to examine Randall's facial features until he interrupted her.
You know I don't like small talk, so let me get straight to the point. What's going on?
Sookraj lays the checks on the table.
Well, I really don't know what this for.
Sookraj points to the $5 million check.
So I was hoping you would shed some light on the situation.
Randall looked at the check for several seconds and said,
Well, I was wondering if you would have asked questions or if you would have cashed it in or not. And me ain't hear from you since last week, so I say you fix up and deposit it.
Sookraj's frustration began to surface and she exclaimed,
Just tell me what the check is for, Randall. Oh gosh.
Well, on the books is for the methanol deal.
Sookraj tightened her lips, raised her eyebrows and asked curiously,
And off the books?
It's for keeping your mouth shut about the methanol deal.
Sookraj, folding her arms, asked,
Well, I don't understand what it is I had to keep my mouth shut about. Because I know it's a standard contract I make.
Randall reached into his drawer and pulled out a plastic paper and said,
This here is a valuation report for the shares them, and the contract that you drew up undervalued the shares by 50%.
Sookraj blinked and confusingly replied,
Well, that's what you tell me to do, boy.
Randall opened the folder to the final page and pointed to the signature at the bottom.
See how you like to sign paper without reading it properly, Sookraj?
Realizing now the dilemma at hand, Sookraj proceeded to work it out in her head. Sookraj said to herself,
So that's why the Chinese offer so much money. Because he sells the methanol plant cheaper than what it worth. And if anybody find out, we could get charged for fraud.
Snapping back to Randall, she said,
But Randall, your signature on there too and all. So I really don't know why you acting so smug.
Randall shrugged and passed his index finger over his lips while tightening them.
Yeah, it is, but I didn't write the contract, Sookraj.
Sookraj opened the manila envelope and gestured to the checks.
Okay, and don't feel I realize we developed some strange signatures here too, you know.
She took out the checks and looking down at the slips of paper, Randall did the unthinkable and smiled.
Well, finally you catch on. Finally.
As she began connecting the dots, Sookraj's stomach turned into knots and her mouth went dry. She drew a deep breath and keeping her voice steady, she replied,
None of these signatures match your normal handwriting.
Picking up the $5 million check.
Except for this one. This is the only one had your handwriting on it.
Without showing his teeth, Randall's smirk grew wider.
Correction, my dear. The signature on that check is only close to my real handwriting. You see, let me tell you what really went on.
He places his palms together and continued slyly.
Apparently, somebody in this office had access to some blank checks and ended up forging my signature, forging down to the one that close to mine too. And here it is. Apparently it was your pen they used, ma'am.
Pulling out her Tabaldi ball roller pen from inside his pocket, he continued.
And it's a nice pen too.
With the frustration bubbling inside her, Sookraj sucked her lips and asked,
What it is that really and truly going on here, Randall?
Gesturing to his desk, which was covered with files, reports, and business magazines, he said.
Well, girl, if I tell you, the universe collapsing, yes, and the masters can't really hold on, eh?
Sucking her teeth louder this time as Randall's habit of uttering cryptic statements always annoyed her, she said.
Boy, you see all this gibberish you just want to be talking so all the time? I ain't able it.
Randall briefly looked up at the ceiling in a moment of disbelief and then made eye contact with her and explained.
What it means, Sukiya, is that this company going to be bankrupt in 3 months.
Leaning forward and resting her hands on Randall's desk, she said.
But we can't be bankrupt, man. We is one of the biggest conglomerates in the region.
Looking at him suspiciously, she asked.
What Nancy story you really hitting me here with here, boy?
Randall began to laugh, now with his teeth showing, and this sight made her stomach clench even tighter.
Well, you know, I just have a feeling that you were going to have a financial crisis before the year up. You wouldn't see this kind of thing coming because you don't pay attention to the world. But then again, you moving this company assets around for years, and you know we finances better than anybody.
He folded his arm and left one up, holding his chin. He looked at her with a squint in his eyes and asked condescendingly,
You mean to tell me you still didn't see this coming?
Randall,
Sukiya pauses in frustration and continues.
I just do what you tell me to do, alright? And you think you could tell me why on earth you forge your own signature on your own checks?
He shrugged his shoulders and replied slyly.
Well, simple.
Randall loosened his arms and rested his elbows on the table.
I just protected myself for when crap was smoke the pipe. That's all. The check them is just one strategy anyway. The managers, the board, yourself. Let me just say that no paper the authorities coming for here could implicate me.
Sukiya shouted obnoxiously.
Well, you's the boss, Randall. Is you gonna be held accountable?
Randall, removing his elbows from the desk and leaning back in his chair, he stuck out his index finger and moved it to and fro and replied,
No, darling. They might hold me responsible, but it won't have anything to hold me accountable.
Rolling a pen between his fingers like a propeller, he continued.
Get the difference,
Then
please.
the unforeseeable happened when tears sprouted onto Sukiya's cheeks as Randall watched her curiously and said,
Relax, girl. You go have to go to court, yes. But the police here can't begin to make a case for financial transgressions.
Wiping her tears with the back of her hand, she said,
Randall, if we fail, that would affect every person that have a life insurance policy with us. That would mean votes. Then that would mean the government would hire American forensic auditors. Maybe even British QCs to prosecute the backside, just like the blasted drug susu.
Nodding in agreement, Randall asked sarcastically,
Yes, and?
leaning forward with her knuckles pressing into the hard oak of Randall's desk. She stated desperately but calmly,
I was always loyal to you, Randall.
Well, yeah, you were certainly paid enough to be loyal.
Seeing Randall's eyes shift into her cleavage, she took a deep breath, looking down and tracing a finger on the desk. She asked shyly,
Yeah, but you can help me,
now biting her lip and looking at Randall. A few seconds passed and Randall finally replied.
Come here.
Sukiya hesitantly went around the desk as Randall turned his black leather chair and is now facing her.
Kneel.
He said seriously, then shifted his knees, opening a space between his legs and commanded again.
Kneel.
Sukiya licked her lips and pulled back her hair, but her iPhone beeped and she said,
Excuse me a minute, please.
Pulling out the phone from the inside of her Armani jacket, she peered at the screen and pressed some buttons. Sukiya began standing while holding up her forefinger with the phone to her ear, caused Randall to frown. As more time passed, his lips thinned in a vicious line and she said,
I know you don't like technology, Randall, but boy, let me tell you, just how wonderful it is.
As she pressed the button on her iPhone, the conversation began playing.
And off the books is you keeping your mouth shut about the methanol deal.
Shooting out of his chair almost as if someone lit it a fire, Randall's expression reflected one of vengeance, and Sukiya stepped back, holding her phone aloft like some strange device, and continued.
It don't just record, it does send emails too.
Standing there, Randall breathed heavily as Sukiya nodded with a grin on her face similar to Randall's earlier on.
One boy, do solo like so.
She paused with a smirk on her face.
My pen.
Randall picked up the tapoli and passed it to her as she continued condescendingly.
Don't worry, day boy Randall. When Crapple ready to smoke he pipe, me and you will be most present. Don't worry at all.
Still holding up her phone, she walked and hoisted herself onto the inside, wriggling back into the recess, feeling the warmth of the tropical sun through the thick plate glass as she leaned back, opening her legs. She said shyly,
Come, Randall boy. Come and kneel here before your mistress.